Hi, today my guest is Theo Codrington. She has owned a small business in Princeton, New Jersey, which is 67% white, as a Caribbean woman who came to the US alone from a big family, most of whom stayed in the Caribbean. So she had many siblings. And I'm waiting. This is Theo's first time doing a live, and I want to make sure that she is good to find us. So thanks for people for joining. It seems like it's a quiet day on Instagram because so many people are opting for silence. Here she is. But I feel really glad to have Theo occupy some of our day because this is a story that we might not hear if we didn't know what's going on historically. So I'm really just putting on this filter to make her happy and excited. And she's just joined. So I've known Theo for probably about 10 years. Um, she is one of my favorite people. She owns a salon called Theo's of Princeton in Princeton, New Jersey. And she comes from an island in the Caribbean called Montserrat. And wow, that's crazy when I go into the light, what happens there. And I'm just waiting for her. It still says waiting for Theo, but hopefully the Wi-Fi is good and we'll see her in a sec. Thank you guys for joining. And I hope you ask questions. I really think it's like, I had to do some brainstorming myself of like, how can, am I willing to have some of these trickier conversations? And I opted for doing it. And I want to keep doing that. Thank you. But yeah, we just, in my opinion, we don't need a lot of people muting themselves. I mean, I think we need dialogue more than silence. And let's see, I wonder if she's having an issue. It says waiting for her. This might just take a couple minutes. So if you want to get a coffee or something like that, let's see. I want to make sure she doesn't give up because I know this can be hard, especially if you don't do it all the time. Seems like it's a Wi-Fi thing though, because it's just at the bottom. I'm going to cancel it and then re-invite her. Let's see here. Okay, unable to join. Oh, Theo, make sure you're doing it from your phone, not from your computer. Okay, she just left. She's back. Add. Let's see if this works. It's got to be from the phone when you try to join a live. Yay. Hi. Yeah, it's a little frozen, but we're gonna stick with it. There you are. You're moving a little bit better now. Okay, let's just see if the connection gets like a little smoother. Can you hear me? Am I talking smoothly?
Oh yeah, you're perfect.
Okay, good. You're getting better too. You're coming in slowly, but it's getting better.
Real nice, nice.
Yeah. I'm just concerned that we're not going to have good. Let's see. Try to talk, Thea.
So I'm in. I'm good. I could. Let's see. I could type and post. Hi. Do you see me? And I can
Okay.
see you clearly.
Yes,
You
I
look
see
great.
you. Thanks. I have this filter on for you to show you how fun it can be here on Instagram.
I know. I love the eyes. It's so sparkly.
So
The eyes are
sparkly.
nice.
Okay, so I am praying that this works and that we can hear you enough for this conversation to go through. You're a little pixelated, um, but I think it will work. Um, so let's start with the beginning. Tell us where you grew up.
Montserrat in the Caribbean. This tiny island started it's like 39 square miles now. It was 32, it went up 35, it's 39 now. I think it's about 40 with the volcano erupted for, it's the 25th anniversary. It erupted for like 20, 21 years. Um, and so, but now it's not erupting anymore, and people are slowly kind of coming back. The grass is kind of growing. The town is wiped out. The capital, the airport is wiped out. So everything is like in the far north, everything now. So, um, yeah, so I grew up there, went to college there, and then came to the US in 86, in 1986. Can you hear me?
And what was it like with your family when you were a kid? Yeah, I'm hearing you. How many people were in your family and what was your family life like?
Oh, there was 8 of us in my family, a big family. 8 in my immediate, like when I say immediate family, my mom had 8 kids. And my dad had 6 kids, but that was separate. Um, and it's great, when you're in that environment, we had one channel, like as far as television, so you didn't see a lot of what was going on here. The stuff that we saw were good stuff. Like we saw videos, Michael Jackson videos. We had a recording studio, so we had a lot of people go down and record stuff. It it was just more of a community, a small community.
Yeah.
Everybody looked out for everybody. It was just easy, You come home from school, you do your chores, and then you play with all of the kids in the village.
Yeah.
Uh, we had endless fruits and vegetables. Everything that we ate was grown within a quarter mile.
Right.
So it was just glorious, but you didn't know that until like, the grass is always greener.
Yeah.
So you didn't know that first of all, we have beautiful mountains and the beaches. And you see the ocean every day, all day long. And I mean, with that small, wherever you go, you'll see the beach.
So what was your dream to leave about?
It was going to Soul Train. I was a really good dancer. And
Interesting.
all I wanted to do was to go on Soul Train and dance, practice all those moves for years.
And that wasn't something that was part of Caribbean culture. That was more like American culture, as you saw
Yeah,
it.
but dancing and music, that's all life. People from the Caribbean, dancing is their life.
So what did dancing for you have to do with coming to the US?
Because I wanted to go to Soul Train.
Okay.
You don't know that because you're kind of young. Do you know Soul Train?
Yeah, I know about it.
Yeah. So if you see it, you see the dancers going down the track and doing all these moves.
Yeah.
So I
That's what
wanted,
that's what
I
you wanted to
wanted to
be
be
in.
on Soul Train. Yeah.
What was your understand? Like I looked up stats on Montserrat this morning. So it's 88% black, the island.
Yeah.
It's like 3% Hispanic and even less white.
Yeah.
So like
When I lived there, it was more because it was bigger. Now it's gone down.
it was more what?
But more of I would think I wouldn't say more Hispanic, but it was more white. The Hispanics, they went in because of the volcano and people left, so they went in for jobs to get jobs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What was it like though to live? I mean, you're now living in Princeton. I looked up stats this morning. Princeton is 67% white. Do you
Oh
feel
wow.
like either place is diverse? Did you feel a sense of diversity when you were little on Montserrat?
You see, that's not a, we don't, people don't,
Think like that. Or
people don't think like that. Growing up, people don't think like that. It's, it's just, I don't know. It was just, I didn't think like that. If people did, I didn't. I mean, we had teachers that were white and we had teachers that were black. It wasn't a, it, 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 it wasn't a conversation.
Mhm.
It was nothing. It wasn't anything.
When did you first realize that race was a conversation in the world?
Um, I heard about it when I came here, but I didn't pay much attention to it. It didn't sink in. I think it only, I think maybe since I've had the salon where it's really like, okay. And I think in the past 5 years where I'm like, oh wow, this is real. I've been here for 34 years. In the past 5 years where it's really like, oh my, like when, I mean, when I was pulled over by cops and harassed, even my neighbor, I have an idiot neighbor and he's not a cop, but he thinks he's a cop. And they've harassed me over 11 years. But I have no, like, that's not the first thing that comes to my mind. I just think that they're idiots, you know?
Yeah. Well, I
I
feel
mean,
like
I'm
you're
gonna tell you something. When I had the salon, this guy came in and said something about KKK, and um, I, I the client that was there was just freaked out, and she's like, "You should call the cops." And I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "You know, Theo, that's like an offense, whatever." And I just wasn't aware. I was busy trying to, you know, make my career,
right.
make money, have, you know. So when someone said, "Oh, that salon is white," you know, whatever, I'm like, "There's no sign." I think you can't stop someone if they're determined to have whatever they want to have. This country, any place to me is for anybody.
Hmm.
You know, I think you stop yourself if you think that you don't belong.
So
But
tell us about the situation. Like, first of all, I want to say, like, you're clearly very resilient. And, like, what I think some would argue is that, like, you had to be resilient. You had to be more resilient than the average white business owner because otherwise you wouldn't be able to mentally survive.
I
And
don't think
that's
I
a
had to
burden.
be resilient. I don't think I had to be resilient. I it's I
It
don't
didn't
know.
feel like resilience when you were
No.
like, I don't care. I'm going to keep focusing on my business. Like,
Yeah, this idiot guy told me, "You can't open a salon in Princeton. You're a black woman. There's no," and I was like, okay. Like, it didn't even, I was
yeah,
thinking to myself, "You're stupid. You don't even know me." Like that.
yeah.
So I I don't know. I just don't care. I actually, that gives you motivation when someone tells you you can't do anything. And there was another white man that came to the salon. I was saying I wasn't gonna last long there as a black woman, and I was like, well, I was written up as one of the top 10 hairdressers. So you can't tell me what I can and cannot do. This earth belongs to God, nobody else.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even resilient. I was just doing my thing,
Right, right, right.
you know?
What do you think of the term white privilege? Like, do you think that's real?
I've never heard that until um I've never heard the term until this girl, I forgot her name. She said something about white privilege. I've never heard anybody say that before. And so I asked her what it meant. I feel like I'm privileged. Like no one could stop me from doing what I want to do.
Right.
So
Do you feel like that is
I don't.
true because you're in the United States, or do you think that's true no matter where you are in the world?
I think it's in your head. Like if you say it's true, it's true. I think you know, no one could tell you what you cannot and cannot do. They're not God. They could say, the police could pull you over all they want, and they're just idiots. They're just ignorant. The police in Princeton are just ignorant, and they're bored. They have nothing to do. And the
Right.
Westminster police, the highlight of their day is when someone locked their keys in their car,
Right.
or their tire is touching the line. That's the highlight of their day.
So
So
one of my friends is saying, Laura, she's saying white privilege is very real. It doesn't mean others don't have privilege. So I think she's saying you recognize yourself as a privileged woman, but it doesn't mean that there's not privilege in other places too.
yeah.
But can you walk us through what was the experience of being pulled over by the cops? And I just want to preface this by saying Theo is, she's a self-made businesswoman. She owns a Mercedes, she owns her own home in a very affluent suburb. You are definitely someone who has worked for a lot of luxury in life, and you
Yeah.
have done
I
well.
love luxury.
Yeah, and none, she's got you're just you're insane in so many ways.
Well, I
But
sold
what
my car. I don't have a Mercedes anymore.
oh, what, that
So,
car was so comfortable. Well, you still have the Louis Vuitton luggage, I'm sure.
shh. Like, okay, well, remember we're on
I have begged you for that now. Okay, but what was the experience of the cops? Tell us the story of you driving to work and getting pulled over.
Okay, which one?
Okay,
Um,
start with the first one.
the first one. Okay, the first one in Princeton was when I was going out dancing one night and I got pulled over from the cops, and he asked me for my registration and I said, look for it. I was nervous. I looked. I couldn't find it. And no, it was the insurance card. He went back to his car. I brought a ticket, but I found it when he went back to his car. And I said, oh, I found it. He's like, well, I already wrote the ticket. So I got a ticket for that. I had to pay, even though I had the insurance on me.
That's okay. And is that something that you paid? Did you pay that ticket or did you
I,
protest
I
that?
paid it. I didn't know. You just don't know what, that's the thing is, you don't know what to do when, you just like, I've had that several times where I'm just like, you know what, let me just pay it. And it's not like you're speeding. It's just, they're just ignorant. And, they should be punished. Those bad cops should be punished because they do it too many times. I lost friends when I came to America first, when I was living here, and on the Garden State Park, is it Garden State Parkway? When
Yeah.
they used to pull, that racial profiling that was going on.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, they were pulling people over. Yeah, they were pulling people over, and people would stop coming to New Jersey. My friends stopped coming to New Jersey because of that. The turnpike, I think.
Wow. Are you saying black friends, white friends, all kinds
Black
of
friends, black friends.
they didn't want to get pulled over on the New Jersey Turnpike,
They
so they
didn't, because
stopped coming to visit you.
every time they came over, they would get, and they're like, "We're done." It was a thing at one point. It
Right.
was a thing at one point where they would pull. Well, they still do, but it was really bad. I think 34 years ago, it was really bad where they would pull people over. So, but um, I've gotten pulled over, and I'm talking to the cop, and one cop is going through my pocketbook. I've gotten pulled over with the kids I babysat, where where you get these kids from, because the kids were white. Um, and we're crying. The kids are crying. I'm crying. This is like early on before.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I've gotten pulled over where I gave my insurance card right at the salon. The guy followed me from Ralph Lauren, you know where that is, all the way to the salon. I pulled in the driveway and he's like, "Why are you pulling here?" And I said, "This is where I pull every day." And he's like, "Where'd you get this car from?" This is, I think this was my black Mercedes. And I said, "It's mine." In my mind, that's not what I'd want to tell him. But I said,
Why?
"It's, well, because where do I get this car from?" Like that's just weird. First
Right.
of all, why are you parking here? I'm not an idiot to pull in a driveway that I don't belong. Like,
Right.
anyway, so I said to the guy, "I own the salon there, blah, blah, blah. I've owned it for 16 years at the time." I gave him my insurance and he says, "How do I know that this insurance is yours or whatever?" And I said, "Well, it has my name on it." I said, "And I have the checkbook here where I paid the insurance."
Right.
And I said, "I own the salon, you know." And he's like, he didn't accept it. He gave me a ticket. And I said, "Please don't give me a ticket because it means I'm going to have to go down to the, and I said, "I work here alone." I didn't have, I didn't have my assistant at that time. And he gave me a ticket. It cost me 3 days. I took off. I went to motor vehicles here and they said I have to go into Trenton. So I had to cancel another day. And you know how it is. I'm a
Yeah.
hairdresser, we book clients. I had to cancel another day. Went down to Trenton. They gave me a note. And then I had to take the note to court. It was a mess. And then the
Right.
judge looked at me and said, "Did you give them your," I said, "Yes." So when I showed up to court in Princeton, at least I had more than a handful of people recognize me. And they were like, "Oh my God, what are you doing here?" And they went over to the police and they're like, "She's definitely," whatever they were saying, "you know she's legit. This girl has been here for a long time. She's an honest citizen," and whatever. Anyway, one person got them to put my name up front so I could go back to work. And the judge was like, "Are you sure you get?" And I said, "Yeah." The cop said to me that my insurance doesn't look like, how does he know it's mine? And he just shook his head and says, "Go." They didn't even charge me the fee. So,
I mean, it's 3 days of loss for you as a
yeah,
business owner.
yeah, it was totally unnecessary. Especially, I say to him, "I have the checkbook the way I wrote the check from." So I mean, there's tons of that. They followed me home when I was in Princeton to my house. It's nonsense. Asking me if I was drinking. Just, stupid stuff. But, you know, the thing is, they do that and people get, if I were like a big man, I probably would fight them. But I know I can't fight anybody. So I just answer and take my ticket and go.
Do you
If I
feel
get it.
like do you feel like being a black woman, are you saying that being a black woman in some ways is, I mean, what is it for you to be a black woman versus a black man?
Well, I think the black men are harassed more. And I've been pulled over and say "sir" to me, like they've said "sir,"
Because
because
you're so tall.
when I had a SUV Mercedes and I got pulled over in that a lot, saying "sir." They would come through the window and say "sir" because I'm a big woman. I'm tall,
You're tall, you're
so
in an expensive vehicle, which you've
yeah.
earned with your own hard work. Um,
So
tell us more about your story of getting to the US. Like, how did you end up in New Jersey?
so when I went to Canada, when I went to Canada, I realized that I was not gonna make, like, I really wanted to have fun, go dancing, go on some dancing show, and I realized this wasn't gonna happen in Canada. So I immediately, 4 days later, I came here. I met with my cousin. I came Saturday morning, and by Sunday, I was on my own. That was horrible.
What do you mean on your own? What did it feel like?
I was in a room, renting a room. But when I say horrible, I'm from a small island, 39 square miles, where everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
So here I am, I'm seeing these tall buildings, people sleeping on the streets, you don't know people. That's kind of scary. That was scary.
What city was it, Thea?
That was in New York.
Okay.
Port Authority. Oh, wow.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, that was something. So when I got my job in Princeton, on the weekends I would stay. I'm like, I'm not leaving.
What
Because
was
I
the
was too
job that
scared
you
to leave.
got?
Babysitting. Well, I didn't have my
Okay.
papers.
Yeah.
So I was a live-in help.
Yeah.
So, and that was good. Three boys and a girl, and I have the best relationship. They're my family. So
I know a couple of them.
yeah, they're awesome.
When did you become a business owner and why did you think that was the next best step for you?
So I was working at a salon. Um, and it just wasn't good. I don't want to, it just, that was not the place. I don't like rushing. You know how I am. Pretty laid back. Any of my clients could tell you, like, when they need to be out of there by a certain time, they say, Theo, I need to be out of here in an hour. Because I'm like, slow, anyway. So there was rush too much, and there was always something. And I didn't like the manager. Um, when I look back at it, I think the manager was pretty racist.
Like what
Now,
kinds of things were happening?
well, she told a girl that she looked like she just got out of a hamper. She was
Hamper?
just rude. A hamper.
Like a dirty clothes hamper.
Yeah, she was just rude. I don't even want to get into it, but she was rude. She was
Okay.
just rude stuff. Um, and I
Lower your
some
face a little bit because I can't see your face or put the camera. Yeah, that's good.
so long story short, I end up with some people, and it just wasn't the right thing. And the parents of the kids say, you need to open your own salon. You've been written up as in magazines. You've done all this stuff. You need your own salon. So that's when that happened. I didn't realize I wanted to open my own salon, but not in America. I wanted to go back home and do that. Yeah, but so it wasn't a dream of mine to have my own salon at all. So
Kasha says, remember when that white woman walked into the salon requesting an appointment and kept asking if there was a different stylist
I
available,
know. Yeah.
meaning a white stylist, and ultimately walked out? So what is that story? Thank you.
Who said that? So this woman, she's ignorant, okay? So this woman came in, and I had a black assistant at the time, and she says, no, there's 5 white people in the salon, 5, and 2 of us are black. And she says, aren't there any black stylists here? White stylists? We're the white stylists. I don't want a black person doing my hair. I want a white person. So obviously I ran to the back. I was just like, I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared, but I was, I don't know. I just thought she was crazy to say something like that. So, but my clients dealt with it. My clients,
What did they do?
they like, not here, go out, leave here, don't like, and she was saying that we always, like, Black people always want stuff that I don't understand. They always want something, she was saying. Those things that my assistant understood more because she's from here. I don't know, some privilege, whatever she was saying. So the client started, talking to her and telling her, get out of here. And she was like cursing. And then she left. And then she came back again. And then my other client, the male client who was sitting there, got up and said, okay, that's enough. And she left. But I've seen her since. I'm not even angry at her. It's like stupid, that's just, you feel sorry for people like that, But the thing is, you would only do something like that in Princeton. If she went to Trenton and did that, she would have been killed, So,
Why do
yeah.
you think a place like Princeton is a safe place to behave like that?
Well, if I were homeless, I would go to Princeton because no one's going to bother you, right? No? Or no?
If you're homeless in Princeton, no one's going to bother you.
Yeah. Because there were like 3 homeless guys and they sit on the bench. No one bothers them. No, it's safe in Princeton. So I think it's safe to, like that guy that walked in and said something about KKK, it was safe for him to do that. He probably wouldn't do it someplace else.
I don't assume it's safe to be homeless in Princeton. Like, you never see people lying on the street ever. Like, I know the guys on the bench you're talking about, like with in the little town square, Palmer
Yeah.
Square, or like
Yeah.
the guys who ride the taxis and who
Yeah.
are lined up against the university gate. But like, you don't see people sleeping on the street.
Well, yeah, but if they were sleeping on the street, nobody would beat them, right?
I feel like they would be. I mean, I'm kind of like, any town where there are not homeless people sleeping on the street, I just assume that they get removed by the police if they do that. Like San Francisco, we have tons of people sleeping on the street, and that's because they're allowed to. And places where we don't have people sleeping, I just assume the government won't tolerate it. Because why
Oh,
wouldn't people be in Princeton? Like you're saying, like everything's better in Princeton basically than in Trenton.
well, I would just figure if I were a homeless person, I would rather be homeless and I feel like I would be safe. I don't know.
But your point was different. Like you were basically saying like racism is somewhat tolerated in Princeton.
Um, Tolerated. I don't want to use the word tolerated. I think that, oh, no, I think that when people are crazy, well, I wouldn't sort of say crazy because
Why
if you're
not just
gonna do
say
something,
racist? What, like,
what do you
I
say?
mean, I feel like you call them crazy, but aren't they just racist? Isn't that the right word?
They could be. The cops I know are racist. I think that they're racist, the cops. That woman that came in the salon and was carrying on, I think she's crazy. Because you ask the cops are not crazy. They have a gun and they're powerful and they know that they could get away with stuff. So they know what they're doing, right? Whereas who's gonna walk into a place and say, I don't want you 2 Black people doing my hair. We're the white people. I want the white people. Who's gonna do that? You have to be crazy to do that. Mental, right?
I see
No?
what you're saying. Yeah, I
And
see
the
what
guy that walked in and say something about KKK, like he was probably on something. Because you got to be crazy to do something stupid like that.
Do you
You know?
feel, yeah. Do
But
you,
the cops is a different story.
do you feel like Princeton needs to improve when it comes to race?
Um, like it depends. Like, as far as what? Like improve, when you say improve.
Like, we would hope that a woman, you know, wouldn't be pulled over like you've been pulled over, right?
Yeah, the cops, definitely. Yeah. They, I think they need to, these people need to be screened and checked all over, no matter where they are. The cops needs to be checked, and not just, you know, I don't know how they get their credentials to be a cop, but they need to be before they just put them on the force.
Yeah.
Because that's, I mean, giving, I mean, for what you've seen.
I mean, there's a lot of talk right now about not having a police force at all. There are a lot of people that are like, let's completely defund it and, you know, make a lot of these phone calls where we send police right now, send like therapists and counselors and social workers.
We certainly could use a lot more counseling and therapy and that kind of stuff. We certainly could use that. As far as, I mean, there needs to be rules. In my, where I'm from, in my island, I totally respect the cops. We totally would. You know, if you're out loud and screaming and carrying on, before you were getting put in jail for the night. You couldn't behave like that. Once there's to be cursing people, like having someone on the ground or having some girl on the ground, you know, attacking, hitting, punching a woman and knocking her over.
My friend says you need more training. You need more training to be a hairstylist than to be a cop.
Yeah. I don't know what the cop training is, but I know I've had a lot of training.
In your 18 years as a businesswoman, what was the hardest period of time?
I could say what the hardest thing is. I don't know what the hardest period of time.
Okay, tell us what the hardest thing is.
The hardest thing is finding people, assistants, stylists that are passionate and not just, it's just the money. That
Okay.
this is really what they want to do. They're not just doing this until something comes along or doing this.
Yeah.
Like, because in Europe, you've been to Europe, like in England, the hairstyling, it's like serious. It's a serious career.
Are you friends with the other hairstylists in town?
No, some.
Is it competitive?
Not for me. I do my own thing. I'm the best. You know, some people might say I'm not.
It's not competitive. I'm the best.
It's not.
Those two things really go.
I called the salon one time, and they said to ask about a young lady, and they said, "Oh, this is Theo competition," and I said, "No, the Theo from Theo's of Princeton Salon." They're like, "Yeah, our competition." I said, "No, you're not my competition. My competition is not even New York. You know me. Anybody that walks in that door, I could do their hair.
Yeah.
So I don't have any competition, really.
We're
I don't have
actually,
to know
yeah.
what they look like. Sorry?
No, keep going.
I don't have to know what they look like. I could do anybody that walks in the door. So
Okay, so there's a question. There's like, I think we should bring up I mean, Meg Smith, who's a photographer and who I've interviewed also, she photographs a lot of weddings and she's pretty awesome. You'd love her. And she's asking for advice on Black women's hair. How can I help my son's girlfriend with her hair? So like, you know, you're a hair studio owner. We have this huge distinction between white and Black hair. Like, can you give us your take on this? And like tips if you have them, if that resonates.
okay, so what does the girlfriend's hair look like?
Okay, we're gonna have to see. Meg will have to tell us.
She wants, is the girlfriend Black? Is she Asian? Asian's hair is the best.
No, I think she's Black.
Okay. But it depends what she wants to
Asian
do.
hair is the best. You're so funny.
Like, if you see my hair, I haven't touched my hair in months.
Yeah? Is that new?
Since, no, because since I just haven't been doing anything to it.
Yeah. Well, none of
I
it.
want to look.
Right?
I want to
I'm
look
really
bad
happy
just like
growing out all
everybody
my
else.
roots. I'm really into it.
I know you like roots, but
I
I
gotta take
just
this
want to look
filter
like
off. It's
everybody
horrible.
else. Sorry?
I'm taking this filter off. It's just so weird.
Black hair is just super curly hair.
Okay, so is that true? Black hair is just super curly hair. Do you have any comments on the black hair, white hair situation that we all hear about?
I know. Black hair really is the best
I thought you said
because you
Asian
could,
hair is the best.
well, you could do Asian different, but because we're talking white hair and black hair,
Okay.
you could do anything with it.
Meg says it's a little grown out. She's black. She wears bonnets and has fake hair braids to her knees. She says she
Oh,
paid for it, so it's her hair. I like it naturally.
yeah.
What are you saying, Theo? Are you saying you don't like extensions and weaves?
You know, I really don't want to talk about that. I just know it's bad for you, but I don't want to, you know, to
You
each
don't
his
want to
own.
offend people.
Yeah, and people would say it's mine, I paid for it. So, you know,
I
I,
think
I don't like to give people advice unless, you know, they, because, you know, it's kind of touchy. People are touchy about that stuff.
I mean, it's cool, you know. You're somebody who really stands for like freedom. Like that's totally self-freedom. Like you're not harming anyone to have your hair done anyway.
No, to each his own.
To each his own.
Yeah, look at my hairs. I mean, I interviewed this girl and she looked at me and she says to me, "And what's with that hair? You need to relax it."
What? Who said that? You were interviewing somebody like you were interviewing an assistant?
A stylist, a blonde chick. And she's like, "What's with that hair? You need to straighten it and relax it."
What did you say back to her?
I just kind of smiled. Of course, I didn't hire her.
Right.
I was like, you know, people are just stupid.
What do you think of all these riots?
Oh man. What I have to say you probably won't like.
Tell me.
I know that it's not a good thing to burn stuff down and all that stuff, but I've been hearing about demonstration ever since I've been in this country, and nothing's happened, right? The police have gotten worse. So I guess action speaks louder than words, right? And it feels like there's going to be a shift because people have gotten crazy and they were locked down for 2 months. People were locked down, locked in. We were locked in for 2 months. So people are already losing their mind. And to see this kind of, who wants to? I went to someone's house one time and they said to me, I was staying over, "I have the perfect movie for you. It's so awesome. It's so great." And I'm like, "What's the perfect movie?" It was some slave movie. And I think to myself, who wants to see someone tied up and burned, like someone that looks like, nobody wants to see that. You get that?
Yeah, why was the person saying that like
When
why did the person say this to you?
they just thought maybe I would enjoy it. But nobody enjoys that. Nobody wants to see someone that looks like them, whatever they are, or anybody. I don't want to see anybody being burned. I don't even watch those kinds of movies, scary movies like that.
Right.
You know. So I think that burning and all that stuff sends a message.
Yeah.
It's bad that it has to happen, but it sends a message, and people know everybody is going to get on board.
What made you say that you
Everyone,
don't that what made you say that you thought I wouldn't like that?
because you and I are not into violence. We don't like violence.
Yeah. No, I hope for the same. I'm like I I hate seeing like the fabric of our world being torn apart. I hate seeing us in a chaotic state, but I'm like
Yeah.
maybe this will get the message through and we'll get better from this
Yeah.
moment of pain.
Yeah.
Are you watching all of the videos? Are you like consuming a lot of media
No.
around the protests?
You know I don't have a TV.
You have the TV where we watch movies.
Yeah, but that's it. Doesn't, if you turn it on, nothing happens.
Oh, it's just for movies.
Yeah. So, I I haven't been watching. I didn't watch much of the COVID-19, like
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. Um, I watched a little bit of the riot because this client came in to buy some products, and she was showing me all this stuff from Philadelphia, what was going on, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So but sometimes when you watch things too much, it gets to you. You know, it just gets to you.
What do you think of the phrase Black Lives Matter?
I think all lives matter. You know, have to I don't have to be black because I'm the blackest person, and I love because it hides a lot. No one knows my age. um I wish there was a different phrase to it.
Yeah, what would the
But
phrase be? What would you change Black Lives Matter to if you could?
I don't know. I haven't thought of it. It's just be good to people. It's like just be good to other human beings. Lives matter. Like, you know, people love animals and they treat animals so great. You know, and they take another human being and treat him awful. You know, I know a lot of people are into animals, so I don't even like. You got to treat people better than that. You got to start treating people better.
As a woman who's from the Caribbean, like there has been, you know, a division at times between Black people who came voluntarily from the Caribbean, like by their own choice, and
Yeah,
Black people in America who have ancestors who came as slaves.
yeah.
Do you feel that tension between those two groups? Do you feel
I think I didn't get it. A lot of us probably don't get it at first, what's going on. And then you live here long enough and then you realize what's going on.
like, how did you start to realize what was going on?
How?
Like, who would have talked to you? Who, like, was it like other Black people who were like, look here, it's not like in the Caribbean. Like, this is,
Um, well, people would say example, like people would say, like when I said something happened and when I said what happened, and they're like, did you get a ticket? And I'm like, no. And they're like, why did they pull you over? And I'm like, I don't know. They just asked me questions. And people would say, my clients would say, that's racist.
so it was clients. And that's so interesting because, like, okay, is it true that the majority of your clients are like white women?
Yeah.
And, like, do you feel like the majority of them have wanted to talk about race with you?
Oh, they always do.
And how do people bring it up? Like, what's the first thing they'll say? Like, on that
Uh,
topic?
well, because they're white, they could say, I hate white people or whatever, you know. They could say, they would say white privilege or whatever they say. They more are mad at their own, like white people, you know. They're more concerned. They say they live in a bubble, and sometimes they would say to me, oh, Theo, you live here in Princeton, so you don't, you know, you don't understand. So,
So you'd have like white women in your chair being like, you
yeah.
live in Princeton. Let me tell you about Black people.
No, let me tell you about white people, how awful
Okay.
they are.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Do
So
you?
I tell
Yeah.
them, I said, listen, 95% of my clients are white. They pay my mortgage, and you know, they pay for my fancy car, and they pay for my stuff. Look, like when people complain about rich people, I'm like, stop complaining about rich people, okay? They spend their money. They don't complain when, you know, they don't come back and say, oh, this. They don't complain.
Do you
So,
have other, like, do you have friendships with other Black women who own businesses?
um, I had a friend. She doesn't own a business anymore.
I mean, you're like one of the only business. You're like one of the only.
We're gonna see you.
So what?
Okay.
I am here.
Hi.
No, we're live. They're live.
He
No.
can join. That's okay. Hi.
No. He just.
Hi.
No,
So
he
this is
doesn't.
Theo's boyfriend, who's also from the Caribbean, right? But French originally.
Yes. Yes. Hi, Marguerite.
Hi.
Okay, I'm gonna let you. Don't worry.
So cute.
Is it Tuesday?
No.
It's work.
No, it's not working. Get out of
It
here.
is work.
Okay.
This
bye.
is bro. Hi. This is Brogan, says someone. How about when your black male friend came over to my house with you and was shocked that everyone here really loves you?
Wait, how do these people know I'm on here? I didn't tell anybody.
Because they follow you, Theo. They follow you on your private account.
Okay, so yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, they. What can I say? I'm special, and people love me, and they can't understand because they're brought up here.
Who
They
is?
they don't understand. So the guy, he was black, and I guess they just don't understand. I just walk into someone's house who's white and sit down and drink wine, and like I say, I feel like this is God's earth. You could go wherever you want to go, and if people want to be friends with you, and you could be friends with whoever. If they're white, like, why aren't you friends with them? They're not better. They're all the same.
In my family, I always got like so much shame for like I always had friends from all different age groups. So like I was always like a 15-year-old girl who had like some friends who were in their 40s and their 60s. Like that's always how I've been. And I got so much like shame in my household for being like that. Like my parents would be so suspicious of like older people who were friends with me.
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, you are this way. You're like a unicorn. Like you are, you're one of like the earth's coolest people.
But people have said to me, like, not to cut you off, they're like, oh, are you the one black friend? But I don't know what that means. They're like, oh yeah, someone has the one black friend, and are you that one black friend? But I sometimes when someone say that, I just want to say, you just jealous. Just shut up. But you know.
Yeah.
If you take that to mean that's you. I mean, if you're insecure, it's not my fault that you're insecure and think that if someone invites you over, you don't go because they're white. Like,
I identify as a white woman, and like a lot of people who are watching this or will watch this will identify as white women. So like I like your stories of like how white women bring up race to you.
Yeah.
Like in the salon as your clients. Like, is there anything you wish like they would know? Like, is there any message you have to white women about talking about race?
They know more than I do. Like, I'm more of like, oh, we need to educate ourselves. We need to go to school and go to college and do this stuff and have, so we're more secure.
Yeah.
And they're like, Theo, you don't understand slavery and what we've done and blah blah blah. They're more downing themselves. Sometimes I feel bad for them because they're like, they are feeling guilty almost when like you haven't done anything to black people, and they haven't done anything to black people because of slavery. They do more. Like, most of my clients volunteer. They're volunteering in Trenton and doing all this stuff that I'm not doing.
Yeah.
That's
what Trevor Noah, we were watching Trevor Noah last night, and he was saying like he was talking about South Africa, and he was like, people are much more like in dialogue around race. And he's like, in the US, there's a lot of like guilt and kind of like, we can't talk about that.
Yeah.
But is that your experience? Like, do you feel like people like are walking on eggshells when they talk about race in America?
I think I think more, I think blacks are more open and they'll say anything, whereas feel like whites, they're more cautious because it's usually you're hearing people are more against the white people, the whites.
Well, I feel like we tried to like in an educated, what I consider to be like an educated American mindset is like everyone's trying to make the attempt to live as if race doesn't
Yeah.
matter. So you don't want to like bring it up to your
Yeah.
friends who are of different races.
Well, they don't want to say anything because white people, they don't want to be called racist if they, even if they don't want to be called racist if they say something.
Or you don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable. But like, I feel like it's good that we now have this moment where we're talking about, like, you know, you and I are having this conversation right now. I mean, we always did when we wanted to talk about race, but I think we have an opportunity to like have more of these conversations.
Yeah. I think the solution is education.
I mean, I had not heard all of you. I've been friends with you for 10 years and I had not heard any of those. I'd only heard one or two of those stories of you being harassed.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing, because it's not, I don't need to, like, I feel very confident. I don't need to put any energy on that. I have a crazy neighbor. I put no energy on it. He's not a cop. I thought he was a cop, but he works at Trenton, and he's harassed me the whole time I've been here, and I put no energy on him.
Well, what kinds of things is he doing? What kinds of things is your neighbor doing?
He's called the salon and say stuff and just stupid stuff. Stupid stuff.
And it does not bother you?
I don't live with him. You know, I don't. We have the same house. Like, right?
Yeah. Well,
I live in my house by myself, paying my own bills, and there's two of them. So, like, what do you want?
Do you consider yourself optimistic?
I don't know if I think that I'm kind of free spirit.
Because it's like, there are going to be a lot of people listening to the fact that you have this neighbor that does this shit to you, and they're going to be angry and they're going to be like, this shouldn't be happening. And it's like, your attitude is basically like, I go on no matter what. And like, I'm not going to let that get me down.
I think at first maybe they thought I was a drug dealer because I'm always running somewhere. I'm never home.
The bottles.
Yeah. So,
yeah. We have a minute. We have like a minute and a half left. Kasha says, I think talking about racism is not dissimilar from discussing something like sexual harassment. A lot of women experience it, but we don't bring it up on the regular. Because it's a strategy of, that's why I call you resilient. It's like, it's a strategy, you know, like you are so graceful all the time. You are so educated. You are so hardworking. But how many of those things are strategy to deal with and survive with racism and sexism?
I feel like you just do what you got to do. I mean, I'm here in America by myself, and I don't have parents that's gonna pay my bills. Yeah. So I have time to be, you know,
fighting with the neighbor.
Yeah. I don't have time with this idiot next door.
Theo, thank you so much. This is amazing. I'm sure a couple of people would want to know your neighbor's name. We hope this conversation makes things a little bit better, but let's keep talking.
Yes.
I love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
Bye.
Bye.